Sometimes the man who saves you from death is the same one who hides the truth that could destroy you. The night was a blur of headlights, rain, and panic. Her car had lost control on the winding road, spinning helplessly before plunging toward the ravine. She remembered the scream her own and then the crushing darkness. When she opened her eyes, she was lying in a hospital bed. The sterile white walls hummed softly, and a faint scent of antiseptic filled the air. Her body ached, her head throbbed, but she was alive. And then she saw him. The tall man stood by the window, dressed in a dark coat, rain still dripping from his shoulders. His eyes, deep, unreadable, flicked toward her as she stirred. There was something unsettling about his calmness, as if he'd been waiting for her to wake up. "You're safe now," he said, his voice low and steady. "You had an accident. I found you just in time." She blinked, trying to remember. "You saved me?" He nodded, barely smiling. She could say that? She tried to thank him, but the words caught in her throat. His gaze held her, cold and kind at the same time, a contradiction she couldn't quite understand. "What's your name?" He hesitated just for a second before saying, "Adrian." Something in that pause told her it wasn't the whole truth. Some strangers enter our lives to save us, but some arrive to rewrite who we are. The days that followed felt hazy. She learned that her name was Alina Ross. She'd survived a near-fatal crash on a deserted cliff road, and that Adrian had found her just minutes before her car exploded. The doctors said she was lucky. She didn't feel lucky. Her memories were scattered, flashes of headlights, screams, and a voice whispering her name before everything went black. Adrian visited her every day. He rarely spoke about himself, always steering the conversation toward her recovery. There was something about him, the way he carried himself, the way he seemed to know what she needed before she asked. He wasn't just a stranger. He was someone with purpose. One evening, as the rain tapped against the hospital window, Alina asked, "Why were you there that night?" He looked up slowly, his jaw tightening. Just wrong place, right time. But she saw it, that flicker of hesitation again. The kind that meant he was hiding something. After he left, the nurse came in with her evening meds. "You're lucky he found you," she said, smiling. "Not many people drive that route anymore. Not since the old estate shut down." Alina frowned. "What estate?" "The Hawthorne estate," the nurse replied. "Big property by the cliffs. Used to belong to some rich family before it burned down. People say the only survivor disappeared years ago." That night, Alina couldn't sleep. She kept replaying Adrian's voice, the way he said his name, the haunted look in his eyes. What if he hadn't just been passing by that night? What if he'd been waiting for her? The deeper she searched for truth, the more she realized some rescues are never accidents. A week later, Alina was discharged. She didn't have much, a few clothes, a phone that didn't survive the crash, and a foggy memory of who she used to be. Adrian offered to drive her home, but when she hesitated, he said, "You don't have to trust me, but you shouldn't be alone right now." She agreed reluctantly. As his car rolled through the winding forest roads, she noticed how familiar the path looked. "This route," she murmured, staring out the window. "It feels like I've been here before." Adrian's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Maybe it just reminds you of something," he said carefully. But when they passed a broken gate with the nameplate Hawthorne Estate half buried in vines, her heart stuttered. A memory, faint but vivid, flashed through her mind. A child running down a marble hall, a fire roaring, someone screaming her name. She gasped, clutching her head. "I know this place." Adrian stopped the car. Alina, don't. But she was already out, her bare feet hitting the wet ground as she stumbled toward the ruins. The mansion was a skeleton of what it once was: charred walls, blackened columns, memories trapped in ashes. She turned to him, her voice trembling. "Why did you bring me here?" He stared at her, rain dripping from his hair, his eyes dark and unreadable. "Because," he said quietly, "this is where it all began." She felt the world tilt beneath her feet. "What are you talking about?" Adrian took a slow breath. "You don't remember, do you? The fire? The people inside?" His voice cracked. "Lena, you weren't just in an accident. You've been running from the truth for years." Her pulse thundered. "What truth?" He met her eyes, the mask finally breaking. "That I wasn't a stranger the night I saved you," he said. "I was there the night your family died. The truth doesn't always shatter it. Sometimes awakens the ghosts we tried hardest to forget." Elena froze. The sound of rain faded. The world went silent. His words echoed in her mind, twisting everything she thought she knew. "You were there?" she whispered. Adrian nodded slowly, guilt flickering behind his calm expression. "You were just a child when the fire happened. I was older working there. Your family's security detail." Her breath caught. "You worked for my father?" "Yes," he said quietly. That night, someone set the mansion on fire. I tried to get everyone out, but his voice broke, pain slipping through the cracks. "I only managed to save you." Elena's vision blurred. Images she didn't remember, flames licking the curtains. Her mother's scream, strong arms carrying her through, smoke flashed like broken film reels. "And you disappeared," she whispered. "All these years, you knew who I was." Adrian's silence was answer enough. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice trembled between rage and heartbreak. "Because you weren't ready," he said softly. "And because if you knew what really happened, you'd hate me." A storm broke loose inside her chest. She turned away, tears mixing with the rain. "You should have let me die that night." He flinched as if struck. "Don't say that. You think I haven't punished myself for every second since then? And tell me the truth," she demanded, spinning to face him. "All of it." He looked at her, eyes burning with a pain she couldn't yet name. "If I do," he said, "you'll never see me the same way again. Then stop hiding." For a long moment, the only sound was the storm. Then he said it slowly, painfully. "The man who started the fire wasn't a stranger. It was your father's partner." He swallowed hard. "And I helped him." Her knees gave out, and the world blurred into static. "You what?" "I didn't know what he planned," Adrian said quickly, desperation in his tone. "He said it was just supposed to scare your father, make him leave the business. But when the fire started spreading, I tried to stop it." But Elena wasn't listening. The one man she'd started to trust had just confessed to destroying everything she'd ever loved. And now he was the only one left standing beside her. When love is born from guilt, it must fight twice as hard to prove it's real. Elena stood frozen in the ruins, the rain beating down like judgment. Her breath came in shivers, her eyes hollow. She couldn't look at him, couldn't even bear to hear his voice. "You lied to me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You saved me just to ease your guilt." Adrian's chest tightened. "No, I saved you because I couldn't live knowing I hadn't tried. I didn't mean for any of it to happen, Elena." She turned on him, anger spilling past her grief. "You worked with the man who killed my family. I was young, he said, pain cracking through his words. I thought I was helping. When I realized the truth, it was too late. Her tears mixed with the rain, tracing down her face. You should have told me years ago I couldn't, he whispered. I didn't know if you'd remember me, or if you'd ever forgive me. Alina stepped back, every nerve in her body screaming. I don't even know who you are anymore. He looked down, his voice barely audible. Neither do I. For a long moment, neither spoke. The rain softened, but the silence between them grew heavier. Then, slowly, he reached into his coat and pulled out a silver locket. This was yours, he said, holding it out. I kept it safe all these years. Her fingers trembled as she took it. Beside, a small photo, a younger her between her parents, smiling. The memory hit like a knife. I've carried your guilt all this time, Adrian said quietly. I built my life around making sure you'd live yours. But somewhere along the way, he stopped himself, his jaw tightening. Somewhere along the way, I started caring for you not because of what I did, but because of who you are. She stared at him, torn between anger and something far more dangerous. Don't, she said softly, shaking her head. Don't make this more complicated than it already is. He took a step closer, his eyes glinting under the stormlight. It already is, Alina. The distance between them vanished, not physically, but in something deeper. Every unspoken emotion hung heavy in the air. Pain, longing, forgiveness that hadn't yet found its place. Tell me what to do, he said. Tell me how to make it right. She looked up, her voice breaking. You can't, but you can stop lying. From now on, I want the truth. Every piece of it. Adrian nodded slowly. Then you'll have it. Sometimes forgiveness begins not with words, but with the quiet choice to stay. The storm had faded by morning, leaving the sky washed pale and clean. The mansion's ruins glimmered under soft sunlight, and for the first time in days, there was silence, not the heavy kind that suffocates, but the fragile calm after a long cry. Alina sat on the broken steps, staring at the locket in her hand. Its edges were worn, the photo inside faintly creased. It wasn't just a reminder of her family, it was proof that her life had been stolen, twisted by lies, and yet somehow, given back. Adrian approached quietly, a thermos of coffee in his hands. He didn't speak, just sat beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him, but far enough to respect her distance. Why didn't you run? She finally asked. You could have left. I would have never found you again. He looked straight ahead, his jaw set. Because I've been running for too long. It's time I face what I did and what I feel. Her eyes flickered toward him. And what do you feel, Adrian? He hesitated. The morning light caught the shadows under his eyes, the kind of darkness that doesn't fade easily. That I don't deserve forgiveness, he said quietly. But I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn it. Something in his voice cracked through her walls. She wanted to hate him. God, she'd tried. But every time she looked at him, she saw the man who'd saved her life, not the boy who made one terrible choice. Do you ever think about what could have been? She asked softly. If none of it had happened, all the time, he said. But I also know I wouldn't have met you. Her breath caught. She turned away, hiding the tears threatening to fall. Shouldn't say things like that. Why not? Because it makes it harder to hate you. He gave a small, sad smile. Maybe it's time you stop trying. For a moment, neither spoke. The wind rustled through the ruined trees, carrying with it the faint scent of earth and ash. She looked down at the locket, then up at him. "I don't forgive you," she said finally. "Not yet, but I'm not walking away either." Adrian exhaled slowly, a ghost of relief crossing his face. "That's enough for me." The sunlight deepened, painting the world gold. For the first time, the place that once represented destruction now felt like the start of something new. The truth can destroy love, or finally set it free. Days turned into weeks, and the quiet rhythm of their fragile peace began to feel almost real. Alina helped Adrian rebuild the parts of the estate that still stood, her presence turning empty spaces into something alive again. She laughed sometimes now, small, hesitant laughs that made his heart ache with hope. But behind every smile was a shadow. Both of them knew there was more he hadn't told her. One evening, as the sun dipped low behind the hills, they sat by the fire in what used to be the old library. Ash still clung to the walls, but the warmth of the flames brought the ghosts to life in gentler light. "Adrian," she said softly, her eyes reflecting the firelight, "there's something I still don't understand. You said you were there the night of the fire, but what exactly happened?" His expression darkened. He stared into the flames as if they might swallow him whole. "I didn't start it," he said, "but I didn't stop it either." Her heart thudded painfully. "What do you mean?" "I was working for your father's business rival," he said slowly. "He told me there was a deal, something about property, old debts. I was supposed to deliver documents to your father that night, but when I arrived, everything was already burning." She stared at him, her throat tightening. "You saw it happen?" He nodded. "And I saw you. You were trapped upstairs. I didn't think. I just ran in." A tear slipped down her cheek. "You risked your life for me." "I owed it," he said bitterly. "But when I carried you out, your father was still inside. I tried to go back, but he broke off, his voice cracking. The roof collapsed. I couldn't save him." Elena's chest ached. The truth hit her like a wave, grief, understanding, and a strange kind of release all at once. "All this time," she whispered, "you've been punishing yourself." He looked at her, eyes shining with pain. "You lost everything because of me?" She shook her head slowly. "No, I lost everything that night. You gave me what little I had left." Their eyes met, two broken souls recognizing each other's scars. The fire flickered, the space between them closing like a slow, inevitable pull. "Adrian," she breathed. He reached out, hesitant, his hand trembling as it brushed her cheek. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. But she didn't. Instead, she leaned in, and for the first time since the fire, since the pain, since the lies, she let herself feel. Their lips met softly, not out of passion, but out of release, a fragile promise that maybe, just maybe, they could heal together. When they pulled apart, the silence was heavy but warm. "Maybe," she said quietly, "we both deserve another chance." He smiled faintly, the pain in his eyes finally softening. "Then let's start there. Love isn't about erasing the past. It's about choosing to stay, despite it." Months passed, and the Hawthorne estate began to rise again, not as a monument to tragedy, but as a place of peace. The walls gleamed white under the morning sun, and laughter slowly replaced the echoes of pain. Alina had started painting again, her canvases filled with color and life, things she once thought she'd never feel again. Adrian often stood by the window watching her work. Every brushstroke reminded him how far she'd come, how far they'd come. One afternoon, as golden light streamed through the tall windows, she turned to him with a soft smile. "You rebuilt this house," she said, "but I think you rebuilt me too." He smiled faintly. "No, Alina, you did that yourself. I just stood close enough not to let you fall again." She laughed quietly, her eyes shimmering. "You always know what to say only because you make it easy," he said, stepping closer. There was no tension now, no secrets hiding behind silence. He had told her everything: the lies, the guilt, the name of the man who caused the fire, and together they had faced it. The man was gone now, justice done, not through revenge, but through truth. Alina placed her hands on his chest, feeling the steady beat beneath her palms. "I used to think you were my punishment," she said softly. "But maybe you were my second chance." Adrian brushed a strand of hair from her face. "And you were my forgiveness." For a long moment, they simply stood there, the sound of wind and distant birds wrapping around them like music. The fire that once destroyed them had become the warmth that held them together. Outside, the rebuilt garden bloomed. Roses, lilies, soft petals swaying in the light. She walked toward the balcony, looking at the horizon. "It's strange," she said. "For so long, I hated the man who caused my pain. But now, I'm finally free of it." He joined her, slipping his hand into hers. "You don't have to forget the past," he said. "Just don't let it steal the future." She looked up at him, smiling through tears. "I won't. Not anymore." He leaned down, his voice barely above a whisper. "Then let's write the rest of it together." As the sun set behind them, painting the sky in gold and crimson, she rested her head against his shoulder, and for the first time, it felt like coming home. Because love had not erased their scars. It had taught them how to live with them, and still find beauty in what remained.